One of the things I want to assure my people over there in Pahoa is that we do and have checked out the environmental stuff about this, and that you can be rest assured that we would not do anything that would hurt this Aina, our beloved Wimalama the Aim. So with that, we want to say that. So
Thank you. And I just wanted to say in the beginning, thanks.
get comfortable.
Hello, good morning, and thank you all again. I do want to say that all of this research started with RJ, and although I put the PowerPoint together, it is all her research. I helped her a little bit, assisted with it. I also wanted to say that it started, like RJ said, with our investigation of a magma well. And yes, we have a lot of concerns about the magma well that's been online for 10 years. And when I say a magma well, I mean in 2005, Ormat drilled 8,297 feet into the earth. They struck a magma chamber. It was the very first time that this had ever happened in the history of humanity. They pulled the drill back up because it torqued. They pulled 4.5 pounds of dacite. That is magma, in situ magma in its environment that gets pulled up with rapid cooling, turns to volcanic glass. They call it dacite. They dubbed it Puna dacite, although many people in Puna don't know about it. It was a discovery. Then since that well, what happened is it's still online today. So I just wanted to start with that. Okay, we're going to start with the presentation. All right,
This presentation is called Waste to Well. It's an industry phrase, not our phrase. And the subject matter that we will be discussing is geothermal solution mining, the commercial recovery of geothermal fluids. What I want to make clear that the article in the newspaper is you don't necessarily need a geothermal energy plant to do what we are talking about. You need geothermal fluids. That means you need steam that is coming up through the ground. That is the resource, okay? I want you to think about that. Fluids from the ground.
Okay, the next page, we started with this because this is the good news, and this is kind of what it all boils down to in some respects. There are 3 states, many people don't know this, there are 3 states that came into the Union last, Hawaii, Alaska, and Texas, and they made a deal when they entered the Union for their own utilities. It means they are outside of FERC regulation, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Chapter 11 says all of Hawaii, all of Texas, and all of Alaska, and most of Texas is outside of our jurisdiction. That means that's one of the reasons Alaska gets the best deal, we get the worst deal, because we get to make our own deals. What happened in Alaska? I don't know how it happened so smoothly, but when the corporations came in for the oil, the politicians stood up and said, we're outside of FERC, we'll make the deal for the oil. And they made a fabulous deal for their people. Alaska is the only place where no one pays personal income tax and no one pays state sales tax. And depending on where you live, many don't pay property tax. The citizens get a dividend check every year for their resource, the oil. And the Inuits, who are the native people, they even get more perks in the deal. Now, this fund that they created, the Alaska Permanent Fund, as of 2014 had $50 billion in it. Not all of that came from oil because they are allowed to make safe investments with it. So it came from oil and the investments. But that's their budget, $50 billion. Okay, they're not begging for bonds or asking for relocation money or anything. They've got the money. Now, they made all these deals on oil. Oil is an old resource. We are moving away from oil. What we're going to show you in this presentation is that we have a resource that's even more valuable for oil. And in the 21st century, everything will come from our resource and resources like our resource.
One of the things to understand is how old this is. Now, we've been doing geothermal resource here since 1975 when we built the first the well. In 1981, we utilized the first well, and it worked for 8 years. Silica Scale was a problem. But the very first time that they started thinking about magma was in 1963. A well was drilled. And they realized, there's something going on here. And after that, there were two conferences, one in Hilo and one in Honolulu, that addressed themselves to the magma. And it really got scientists thinking about, it's hitting those hot rocks. I wonder what's inside those hot rocks. And so they started assaying and evaluating what was in the steam and in the water. And a lot of their thoughts, a lot of their theories could not be put into reality because they didn't know. They couldn't get as close as they wanted to the pure substance so that they could know what was in it. They only could do it with the steam. And it was only until 2005 that they were able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so this paper up top, this is a paper we found from 1963. It's the first time they started to think about what's in that magma. Looks like it must be laden with minerals and metals. It comes from the magma that makes everything. So then 10 years later, we have the oil embargo and energy costs are going up. The government starts to think about what are other sources where we can make money from. They start thinking about the magma. They have a conference called, and I love the name, Magma Tap. I don't like the idea, but I love the name. And they had it in Honolulu and in Hilo where they start thinking about this stuff. Okay. We go all the way up to 2005. Mr. Bronicki, who created the invention that started this whole thing, he was there at the conferences. He understood this technology. And in 81, he went to Imperial Valley, California, where they have the hottest geysers in the world. And he put his binary system in there, and he showed how you can take the heat of the geyser and you can turn it into energy. In 1 year, he paid back his Department of Energy loan, and he made millions of dollars. That's when he came to Hawaii. In 2004, he bought all his partners out, and in 2005, in October, he hit a magma chamber. Now, we don't know the exact date because there was no governmental reporting on this, so all we know is it happened in October of 2005. Nobody really found out about it until 3 years later when they had a conference about it. What happened? Like I said, they pulled that drill up after they hit the magma chamber, and they got dacite on it. You see, it's clear. It's not like lava. They said they could put it in water and it would disappear, and all they could see was the etchings from the drill. Okay.
And what I'd like to point out is you can see bubbles in this because this was not the kind of dacite that was pulled up. This is able to crystallize, has glass inside of it. But the magma that they pulled up in 2005 was clear. It had no time to be crystallized because it was brought up from the drill.
So where this picture came from was Iceland. Iceland had an accident just like we had and hit a magma chamber after they found out what had happened in 2008. They did it in 2009. When Ormat did it, they didn't take any pictures. Like I said, there was no governmental reporting, so the only picture we have comes from Iceland because we didn't get to see those pictures. Okay.
Yeah, we have no idea what the clear mass.
The reason we put, and we only have from their description of it as they put it in water. The reason we put Pele up there is the Hawaiians knew about this. That's why they knew that there was a difference between lava and magma. You see, the hair of Pele is the lava. That is not, just like our hair is not us. You could cut our hair, shave our head, we would still be ourselves. Pele is inside the earth. She's the magma. The lava is just her hair.
Good way of describing it.
Now, this is a picture of one of the things they pulled off the drill that they did show us, is they showed us what happens when you put this stuff, and this picture does come from Ormat's abstract on the topic, is those pieces that we see over here. This is Puna dacite under polarized light. And as you can see, it looks clear, but once you put it under polarized light, you have the entire periodic table in there. They can brine everything out of there. And they even found things on the periodic table that they had just theorized about. They were able to fill those in. This was an incredible discovery. We didn't know about it here on the island because they didn't tell anybody for 3 years, but Johns Hopkins, they said it's scientific gold. This is an opportunity for the scientists there to study something that never had been looked at. That's why I say it's too late now for the geologists. The geologists have already done it, but not in Hawaii, on the mainland.
And
so this machine over here, would you talk about the machine?
Oh, yeah. This is what one of the machines looked like that Lawrence Livermore in 2006. This takes geothermal brine and takes it from the plant to the machine to silicon wafers to your specification. And silicon wafers is big now. Thin film, solar panels, all of it. From the steam to the product, all in one fell swoop. What they say is, give me your steam for 90 minutes. Okay, that's all they need, 90 minutes to produce their products.
So this is called mining the periodic table at will from the steam. This turns the mining industry on its head. Mining used to be an environmentally toxic. Now it's coming up in the steam. You no longer have to dig in the earth. The production costs are a lot less. This is a very profitable industry. Okay.
Oil, you can see the rainbow in those
switched the
chips.
screen.
Yeah, you switched it, but you can see on a wet day and the oil, you can see all the rainbow. Same thing in the dacite. When you cleave it, it shows you the rainbow, and that's your clue. Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Is that one mine?
Okay, well, this was just in 2008. They made the discovery public. The scientists did. People who got the dacite got the head start. After the 3 years was up, they already had all the companies in place. They had the patents already pulled. They had the machines already built. Now the scientists break the news to the world. In the Agu Conference, that is the American Geophysicists Union, they had a special meeting to discuss just what they found here on the Big Island. I don't know how many people from Hawaii were at that meeting, but scientists from all over the world were at that meeting. 8 abstracts were presented. Many of them came from ORMAT. Things like evidence of magma chamber beneath the Puna geothermal venture, another one called the silica composition of magma, and they were all delivered that day. And we got newspaper articles. The Tribune wrote a story about it. Peter Sir wrote the article. It's called Old Lava, New Splash. This was the only thing from Hawaii we can find. The reporting of that conference. Not one scientific abstract comes from Hawaii. Not one grant research comes from Hawaii. All we got was one article on the front page. This is when RJ and I first found out about this. But not about this. We just got an idea back in 2008 when we saw it in the paper. That was it. Okay.
Yeah, I won't say any more.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, this particular slide is what I've been talking about. There's the silicon wafers. There's Lawrence Livermore. 2 people from Lawrence Livermore Labs started a company we'll be talking about. They got the jump in 2006, started the company. They're making money. They saw the future. We don't need to belittle them or anything. They smart cookies. We need to get that smart. This is a resource. We're not talking about anything other than fluids or a resource that come up out of the ground. From what I understand, your job is to find out whose is it. Okay? That's your job. Go ahead.
Yes, because this is all the information when that magma was sent off island, and we don't believe ORMAT even had really the permission to send that substance off island. These are all the head starts. Had that become proprietary in Hawaii, that dacite's ours. You found that. That belongs to the Wines, the state, and the county. We would have been able to get the head start. We'd be talking about machines that we'd be leasing, but we don't get any of that. All the people that got the chunks and were able to get the head start got it. But that's okay. It's already been developed. Now we can come in and take advantage of it. Okay, here we go. This is Silica Scale. This is a waste product in the geothermal industry. This used to be a huge headache for the geothermal industry because what happens is they have to switch to regular power, flush their pipes, and clean the scale out. Once they found out now they can remove the silica, and they get the purest silica on the planet, the most heavily hydrated, valuable. This is money. Now they don't mind cleaning the pipes. They get a lot of scale. And go ahead, RJ.
Well, what I want to say about that is, like, from 2000 and the 90s, they started reducing the scale. It was important, but it wasn't until lately that they realized how much. So they stopped throwing it away. They stopped burying it, and they started processing it.
Okay. Okay, so we kind of give you an overview of the industry. Up here is just the old mining. That's the awful thing for the earth. We don't like that. They would have to make big holes and get in there, and it would create a lot of health problems. It would create problems for our Earth. This was an old technology, but at the time it was new, where, whoa, the geothermal brine is getting it. We'll collect it in these ponds, heat bleaching. This is what the brine looks like. Ooh, it's got a lot of stuff going on in there. You get platinum out of these mud pools. I mean, you get all kinds of stuff out of this. Now they got machines that can make them into wafers. What are they doing with some of the silica? Well, they're making body parts out of it. See, we're part silica because the magma, it's in the magma. The magma makes everything, even us. And so they can take silica and they can make body parts and they can put it in these in our bodies, and we don't react to them so bad because it's made of some of the same stuff we're made of. They make powders out of it. Right here, I take this from Grace Chemicals. This is all silica bagged up that they buy from the geothermal plants. They make products. They also ship it. They say just from the silica alone, they're making $36 million a year just from the silica. So this company's like way up. They never used to do that. They've gotten into it. And they make more now, they say, from the silica than any of the other stuff that they used to do.
And may I add, stop thinking about geothermal plants.
Yes.
Okay?
You don't need a plant to do
Stop
this.
thinking about drilling deep into the ground.
Yeah.
I want you to all open your minds up. Stop thinking about the old things, and start thinking about the new technologies that are available that make these things possible.
We're talking about nanopowders. This is nanopowders made from metals. This is lithium. This is
Gold and
silica,
silver.
gold, platinum. They make it in powders, and that's how they get it on the thin film. You see, they don't even need wafers anymore. They do thin film now, and they can etch it. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, we don't want to.
Okay. This is a paper that Warmat wrote in 2006. They didn't publish it until right before the Agu Conference. It's called Gold, Silver, and Other Metals in Scale. They collected off a 2-year period just from the surface equipment. Okay, just as we're talking, like, that's why I was saying byproduct. They scraped it off the surface equipment. They got 24,000 pounds of it over 2 years. They didn't send 24,000 pounds to be assayed. They just sent a representative sample of the 24,000 pounds. They never say how much. What did that yield? Well, just to start off with, it yielded 17 ounces of gold. Where is that gold? Would they leave it with the assayers in Nevada? We don't know.
They gave it to their family football mitzvahs.
Maybe they gave it away for football mitzvahs. We don't know what happened to the 17 ounces of gold, but they sent a little tiny bit of it. They got 17 ounces of gold. Where is it? That's just one minor question. But they also found a lot of other things in it. They do a calculation at the end of their paper. They say geothermal fluids, flow. Oh, I have that in here.
A million pounds per hour containing 70% brine over a 2-year period, 30 ounces of gold. But again, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have a flowing 24
just off a
hours
few
a
things,
day, and you accumulate that from a certain amount of plants, and you've taken out all of the others, and you add it all up, you got some big money going on here.
That's
through the
38
plant.
ounces of gold just from the scrapings. We're not even talking. There's many ways to get this. So this is just one way. Okay. This is a chart the top chart comes from Ormat's paper, the dacite melt paper. They say the silica in the, our silica in Hawaii coming from the volcano is 67.33% silica. Now, I know people say, oh, silica's everywhere. Yeah, but at 1%. They get 3% silica, 8% silica. They got to crush a lot of sand. The processing costs are high. In our geothermal fluids, they have silica that's 67.33%, the purest in the world. The second purest is 64.81. It comes from the Chilean Ocean Ridge. They got to go way into the middle of the ocean and drill really far down in order to get this silica. So the processing costs are high. So that's the second place, the Chilean Ocean Ridge, who has the second purest. So what we're saying is it's coming right up in our brine, our steam, and it's the purest, and it's the most heavily hydrated, which makes the hydrogen. Okay, go ahead. The bottom chart.
Oh, thank you. The representative sample was sent off to Sparks, Nevada, where they had it assayed. And you all can see what was found. For those of you who have a hard time and might have been asleep in the chemistry class, you can see it's gold and silver and copper and lead and zinc. And the percentages are there for you to look at. And there are many more there. And so you can look at that too. I don't want to make it too long because I'm sure.
What is silica doing? Well, silica that comes from the magma, it can sustain the heat of the sun. That's why that person's hand's not burning on top. That's why the crayons aren't melting, because this stuff is impermeable to heat. That's why they're doing space travel now. You used to hear NASA was blowing up every minute. They don't do that anymore because they use these things that they're getting from the center, the lithium, the lightest material in the world. They can all sustain high heats. What about silica? It's bendable. It can project holograms on it. That's why Bill Gates says in the future your television will be as thin as a piece of paper because silica is glass. You can cleave it. You can slice and slice and slice until it's paper thin, and then you can project holograms on it. So in the future, if you want your house to be the Taj Mahal, you just set up that hologram in your whole house. Everywhere you look, you think you're living in a palace. It's unbelievable, the applications for the hologram. Talk about the fabric they're making from it, RJ.
Oh, I like this one because when you incorporate it into ordinary fabric, you get some of the most incredible clothing, some of the most heat, and the military is really looking at this, okay? Cold, it's impermeable. I like the idea of talking about fire protection, about being able to save babies on the third floor. I mean, the guy goes up there, he's all covered, he's got the blanket, the kid's there.
Silica
you wrap
blanket.
the kid up in the blanket and you run down the stairs. You see what I'm saying? We have options, and you begin to do this. Hawaii could be making the fabric. We have niche industries that we could be providing these things for. No more sweat marks underneath your arms.
Doesn't stain.
You spill, you don't have to worry about it staining. I mean, these are incredible things that come from just the silica. And may I say, the first thing you have to get out of the geothermal brine is the silica. After that, everything else comes out,
And
the
we have the
lithium and all
best.
the rest. And we have the best on the planet.
From our waste. Okay.
Don't let me get too excited.
And I love the blanket because really now they have the silica blanket. They wrap the baby in. They can get them through the fire. Now this is amazing stuff and technology. What are they wrapping around our poles in Pahoa? Of course, it comes from the volcano. This stuff doesn't burn twice. It can sustain the heats. Okay. This is the future.
Tents, windows,
Orbitech. This is a spin-off company from Ormat. This was created by the founders of Ormat, the Bronickis. What do? They do the most complicated silica, blanket silica etching. They etch onto the thin film. They have the machines that do it. They make the OLEDs for the flat panels. Every television and every electronic age will have the OLEDs. They're all made with silica. They happen to have geothermal plants all over the world. Guess what? That produce silica. Are they using the silica? Well, they claim they're not. There's no reporting on it. That's how new this stuff is. Okay. The lithium. Lithium used to be incredibly rare. It's very expensive and very rare, but now you walk into stores, you see lithium batteries on every shelf. Why? What happened? The reason it's rare is because you used to have to dig way into the depths of the earth to get it. And as soon as it would hit the oxygen, it would start to oxidize, so you'd have to stick it in oil. Very rare, very expensive. Now, what happened? It's coming up in the steam. When we contacted a company that does this on the mainland to see, they said, oh, we love your steam on the Big Island. It's filled with the best lithium on the planet. We would love to get over there and help you guys. That's what we found out. The lithium in our volcano, it's just coming 24 hours a day, and we're talking again not about drilling or being, toxic. We're talking about the waste products. It's full of lithium. And this is a huge commodity, and this is probably the most valuable commodity that's coming out of our volcano.
And the other thing, just as a side note, is lithium is just not used for batteries. There's a niche business for grease and casting and air treatment and other things. So as much as we study, as much as we learn, that's how much our state and county can earn.
That's right. Our permanent fund. We'd like one like Alaska, the Hawaii Permanent Fund that goes to the people in terms of property tax. The relocation, you guys want to get out of here? We buy you out lock, stock, and barrel.
Lock, stock, and barrel.
We're talking about, exactly, solving a lot
Want
of
to
problems.
move?
Solving
We'll
a lot
move
of problems
you.
and not creating a toxic way, but solving a lot of problems off of the waste. This is the 21st century.
I hope. You want to come with us? Only
Go ahead.
kidding. Oh, in number 15, Iceland. Now, what's interesting is Iceland had an accident 6 months after the conference. But because it's Iceland and not the United States of America, instead of turning it into an injector well or a production well, they built a whole plant over the hole. because they knew that they could use all the electric power that was coming up out of that hole. So they decided to build a plant. And
we should say that we're not in support of the magma technology.
No,
See, that's how we
not at
started this,
all.
was to expose the magma technology. We don't like the fact that Iceland built a whole plant around it, but they say they don't need to drill any more holes. One magma well will light up all of Iceland. It produces incredible when you're dealing with the magma. We don't like that.
well,
because
it produced 38 megawatts.
because we don't understand magma
Easy.
yet. They're just realizing magma chambers are baby volcanoes. They're just learning that all the magma chambers are connected all over the world. They're just learning about this technology, so we don't want to see that happen. We want that magma well closed down, but you don't need a magma well to do this technology. That's what led us to this technology. But this is our concern. In Iceland, once they had an accident where they had Ormat officials over there, like Teplo, who was at both places to help supervise their accident, they hit the magma chamber in 2011. They had a bad accident. That's that screen, trying to mess with that magma. That could have happened here, but they were successful. In 2014, they built a plant. But if you talk to people in Iceland, yes, a lot of them are happy because of the energy and all that, but some of them are scared because it's going to could potentially blow them up. So we don't like to mess with the magma, and we don't need it for this. But we put this up there because Iceland followed us, and they're already doing it. Okay. But not what we're saying. They are doing what we're saying, but I'm saying that with the magma enhanced geothermal plant. It's the only one in the world. So up to date, only Hawaii and Iceland have hit magma chambers.
Now, are you seeing a pattern here where Hawaii County is being used as a petri dish, where we're being used as an experimental site, and then the rest of the world gets to know and then begin to move? And this is where we need to keep catching up. We need to know what's going on in our own backyard.
Okay.
Read the top.
Okay, here's a plant that's already starting to do it. Now, up at the top picture, you'll see the DOE, the Department of Energy, is very interested in this technology, and they have given millions of dollars for this technology, not to Hawaii, but this machinery, they gave $3 million to build this separation machinery. And Symbols Material, who are two of the people that from Livermore that got the head start, they got a piece of the chunk, they left Livermore and started Symbols Material. Now, Symbols Mining used to mine into the earth. Symbols Material mines the waste from the geothermal brine, and they're doing it. Who owns that geothermal plant that they're mining out of? Warren Buffett. He bought 10 of them, and they're mining out of his. He'll tell you in his video, lithium, magnesium, zinc, these are the new gold. Okay, you see in the corner they have the little, they're telling what they're doing. They're saying there's the steam, there's the periodic table right up there, there's all the elements, what are those? The lithium, the magnesium, the zinc.
Potassium.
This is what they're getting from the steam. They're already doing it. Now, people say, oh, but they fired 400 employees. Yeah, they did, because they only needed 400 to set it up. It takes very few to run it.
In fact, I think Mike just shared that there's only 3 at any time operating the Ormat plant. Oh, yeah, and I'm going to read the top part for everybody that can't see it, and that is, high-purity lithium from discharge brine borrowed from the geothermal plant operating on the Salton Sea processes will set up a new environmental standard. Sustainable producing the targeted minerals for efficiently and effectively and on a smaller footprint than competing processes. What does that all mean? It's an opportunity for Hawaii County and Hawaii to increase their renewable portfolio, our green renewable portfolio, and move towards our commitment for that 2030, thing that's going on with you guys in terms of how much you have to, you're committed to. I saw this as a good way to do that by bringing in this geothermal mining.
Here you go.
Yeah, thank you.
This is just last year. Like I say, the DOE's given millions, but just last year they gave almost $5 million to 9 projects that are doing geothermal material recovery. That's exactly what we're talking about. We're not on that list. No one from Hawaii is on that list. They will come here to study it. We didn't get any of that money. Okay, I put some charts up, and these are just the world productions of some of these things, just to show you how valuable they are. The top one, do you want to talk about the top chart, the magnesium production? You see China's got the lion's share, and they don't do any reporting. They don't tell you where they get it, how much they produce. They don't feel like they have to. And again, we're only talking about powders. You see, this is the lithium market. It's going nowhere but up. I put this up because this is kind of a history of lithium, and they're saying, well, we used to get it here, but look in the middle. We now get it from geothermal plants. That's out of the steam. Underneath, this is a chart about the silica. Again, China's ahead of us on every level. That's why the United States DOE is throwing millions of dollars at this, because they realize this is an energy source and we have the resources. What we're saying is Hawaii has a very special resource that we want to save in a permanent fund for our people. We don't want to get sucked up in the U.S. budget. We want it specifically for the people of this island. Okay.
Now we're coming to the real future as to why they're doing all of this. Because silica, and we're talking about silica, we're not really focusing on the lithium. That's easy to do. But the fuel cells of the future are going to be very dependent upon silica. Because I'm not a chemist, but I know that colloidal silver, after doing all my research, is very, very hooked up with the hydrogen production of the future. And like I said, our silica is heavily hydrated. And that is no more than talking about hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide has deuterium in it, and so does this this substance that we're talking about. And when you add water, it turns into hydrogen and oxygen, just like they're talking about. So what's going into the environment? What we need more of: air, oxygen. What are you getting? Power. So this is green, folks. This is where we're going, because when you really look at how the planet was made, the only thing that you won't find in the original is carbon.
So when
Carbon
she's talking
is
about
nowhere in the universe except when you produce it by mixing chemicals and things together. You get a result of carbon. So this is clean. This is not producing carbon.
And when she's pointing to that fuel cell, that's a fuel cell. What's inside there are silica. And what you're doing is you're pouring water into your gas tank, and you're going to Kona to Puna, back to Kona again. You aren't burning any oil.
Not now, but in the future.
This is all about fuel cells. You see that container? That's got where you store the hydrogen when you make it. We can have those in every subdivision. Instead of using HECO and instead of using nuclear power, we can switch it to hydrogen in the future. On the bottom screen is the car. The cars are going to be made of this in the future. Don't buy a new car now. They're all manufacturing these in the future. Hydrogen, all about hydrogen, and our volcano plays a crucial role in that. Okay. Symbols material again. You see the different elements. They're telling you, there's your car, there's the elements. They get this from the geothermal plant. You'll be pulling up. They'll be putting their proprietary blend of water in your tank that's mixing with your fuel cell. It's all about the future.
And lithium plays a big part in that, because what's in that tank is an electrolyte that mixes with everything else. So there's another niche business for us to get into.
Yes.
It's providing that electrolyte for the batteries.
So we put this up, and this one over here is PLLN. This is a research group. They're in Alaska right now, and basically they got $1 million from the DOE to set this up. This looks like, we could set this up, but we don't even have to put that steam there. We can put it in a closed binary system if we want. But anyway, there's lots of possibilities, and there's research projects to be done, and this is all green. This is the future to get away from oil. And our volcano is going to play a huge role in it, not by digging holes, but just by mining the brine and the waste. Okay, so down here, this is True Group. They're already doing it. We sent them an email. They said, we looked at Hawaii, and you got really good numbers on the lithium coming right out of the steam and the brine. They like us. They're ready to play anytime. They've sent me 3 emails. Okay.
Well, they're ready to come and see. And what I want to tell the community is there's no bills. There's no resolutions. This is a communication, and we're trying to educate you so that you can make informed decisions as to whether you want to proceed. No one is going to proceed over your heads or dead bodies. We're doing this so that we can learn and then see what direction we're going to go in it. We're not going to leave anybody behind this time.
Okay, this is your screen.
Oh, is this mine? This is the question when we started doing all our research, and when we finally got down to how wonderful this is when we went to Councilwoman Willie and our own councilman, and we said, who owns these powerful resources? Geothermal has been in our community, in our backyard now, and we've got royalties off the steam, minimal in terms of what I think they've been making. And I saw this as an opportunity perhaps for us to make a deal if we go forward. But the first thing we had to answer was, whose land is it? Whose lease is it? Whose, when it comes up out of the ground and it gets sent off the island, whose materials are those? Whose metals? Whose elements? And I couldn't get an answer until I started talking to real estate people and other people, and they said, well, it depends on torrent laws and all those kind of things. So we decided that we would then put it in the legislators' hands, do a presentation, and I thought that perhaps after we got finished, you guys would be able to take it away.
So this is a revenue stream that's been created by the geothermal industry, and we're hoping the state and county can take this revenue stream and turn it for the people. Okay, instead of the foreign corporation that's now got a hold on the mother lode, our resources. Okay, here we go. And I put this page up about ORMAT because, number one, it's very recent. This is April 2015. You guys read about this in the paper. We scooped it with the reporters. It just so happens that ORMAT got $136 million of stimulus money by misrepresenting two projects. At least this is what is said in the lawsuit. By misrepresenting two projects. Guess what? One was our Puna plant. They got $13 million of stimulus money. They did a renovation. They claimed it was a new plant. Wasn't. It was just a renovation. They wouldn't have been eligible for the stimulus money. We could have got that $13 million to start some of our unused holes of opportunity, some of the holes that have already been dug that weren't hot enough for the geothermal, but they're hot enough for recovery. We could have got that money for our plant. They got it. They misrepresented it. They're in court now. At the same time they were getting their $136 million from the stimulus, they were just settling out of a lawsuit with their investors for $3 million because the investors said they misrepresented some stuff. So we just put this on the table to say, hey, if ORMAT potentially, if they're found guilty, if they lied to the federal government and they got the lawsuit with the investors and they lied to their investors, we might say there's a pattern here and we want to do our own assessing and we want to do our own deals because they may be lying to us. What I said is when I started this, my question was, where does the word ORMAT come from? I started to look at their family, wondering if it was a family name because somehow I had an instinct that if I could figure out where the name came from, I could understand the company. Well, finally, it came. ORMAT is inside of information. And that's what happened to us. That's how you make money in this world. You get something, you know it, you don't tell anybody, and you make billions off of it. Inside information. And now, that's okay, because now that we know, we're stepping up to say the Hawaii Permanent Fund, our people need, we have needs, and we have the most valuable resource on the planet. So, okay, go ahead.
All right. It all started with what we call the magma well. It was permitted, and it was drilled. Now, Mike might be able to give us some more information about this, and this we are not going to stand by, but when I read the permit, it was permitted for an injector well. When I read all the abstracts, it said it was an injector well. When we read another paper, it said it was a production well, and then it was changed to an injector well in February of 2006. My concern is if they struck magma and they turned it into a production well, that must have been crazy for a couple of months, and I'm sure Mike can tell us about that. And then it was switched. And I saw his name on the amendment to an injector well. So I was really curious about what was being produced between this time and that time. And so I thought maybe he would enlighten us on that. Because it's at that time I think they learned a lot about the steam, about pressure about how much power they could be able to produce out of that one well, how many other wells might not have to be drilled if they're able to utilize that well and control it. Because the hotter you get, the more corrosive it becomes, the more other stuff comes up, and you have more problems. So that's why we put this up.
And
Sativa?
we also put this up because we've been doing the research on this well. We found out that the health department, Uhura, who is a geologist, he was embarrassed that he didn't even know about the accident. So we've caught him up to speed. We sent him the abstracts. He understands now. And what we're saying, and we're kind of working it out with him because we're all trying to figure this out, is right now on top of that well, usually they put a cement plug. They make it a reinjection well. There's no, I don't know if there's a cement plug, but there is a hydroclastic fill plug is what they call it. The hydroclastic is what happens with the magma when it comes up rapidly. It cools and it turns into volcanic glass. I believe this is the only well in the world that has a hydroclastic fill lid. Okay, so what happens when they use it as a reinjection well and they're sending those cold fluids down and it's hitting that hydroclastic volcanic glass? Could possibly create cracks where the magma then could seep in, get into wherever the groundwater, create whatever it is. Like I said, I'm not a geologist, but because the geologists in the health department didn't even know about this incident, we need to, this is part of it, even though this isn't the geothermal solution mining part, but this is a magma well that is still operating as an injection well with magma at the bottom 20 feet of it, a hydroclastic fill, maybe the first one in the year. So we're just saying, this is some of the stuff we need to investigate. Okay. We called Mr. Tanaka because they report in their, Ormat did a paper on this that was presented in 2008. They claim they lost a drill bit in the magma. It was too much to recover. To me, that sounds like an accident and something unusual happened that day. They say they were on a routine drilling operation, 8,297 feet down. They hit the magma chamber. They lost a little bit of their drill. They didn't report it as an accident. When we called BLMR and we were trying to find out why didn't they report it, we talked to Mr. Tanaka. He says he was there that day. He says, we were there. And he says, well, I didn't make them make an accident report because it wasn't an accident. They were intentionally trying to drill for that magma well. Well, that's not what their abstracts say. I don't know why Eric Tanaka's saying that, but he's saying I didn't make them make an accident report because of that. So because of that, our scientists didn't get to go over there and check anything out because nobody knew about it for 3 years except Mr. Tanaka, and he was good at keeping that secret.
Oh, pardon me, Mr. Teplow knew, and he got with other scientists like from Riverside and Washington State and other places, and they got busy. So, and he's from Washington.
So this also comes from their abstract. They say the hole had to be cleaned out repeatedly. So you're talking about drilling a hole, you're pulling a whole bunch of rocks out. From 8,000 feet, you're pulling a lot of stuff out of the earth. What happened to all those rocks? They say 16 dump trucks full. Where did it go? Okay, now I put up the precious metals coming out of the rocks because they didn't report, so we don't know. But in Iceland, they reported very detailed reports. And they said while they were drilling, because, and you read that gem thing.
Gems are formed below the Earth's surface and can be brought up through mining. Some gems crystallize in magmas or holes in volcanic rock. And it takes millions of years for the magma to crystallize in layer after layer after layer after layer. So that's how you get diamonds, how you get rubies, obsidian, gems, stones. Sometimes the magma will go up and you'll get a dike. That's where you find diamond mines where they're just over in South Africa and other places where the diamonds are just laying on the ground. They come up so fast, they just...
So in Iceland, they say they had to stop the drill because they see freaking rocks coming up with rubies out of them. They had to stop the drill and pull these pile of rocks out. What happened to our pile?
We want to know if
had they
came up.
reported, our scientists from the university would have been over there looking at that pile. We'd have those rocks in our museums. Where did it all go?
Now, the reason why we have Next Era Energy up here is because they're coming here. They want to be the next energy company that will provide us with the energy. But that's not all Next Energy does. They have a subsidiary called FiberNet. What does FiberNet do? They make silica and silica communications. They have everything to do with the future of telecommunications and all the rest of it. If they are allowed to come here, they then have access and a relationship between the PGV plant. I don't know. I'm just thinking like a citizen, seeing people come, relationships formed, and I want my peeps to get a piece of this. I don't want it to get out of our hands.
One of the things we found about Next Era Energy is that FiberNet has already done the studies on the undersea water cable from Big Island and Maui, and they say, thumbs up, it's economically feasible. They make the cable. Yes, silica is everything because silica can transfer that electricity like nothing else can. It can bring that message quick, fast, and accurately. So they are Grande. FiberNet is Grande Communications, which is all over Texas, another state that's outside of FERC regulation. They love to get involved with the 3 states that are outside of FERC. And they make the undersea cable, so they'll be in the perfect position when they decide about that undersea cable to move right on in with the bid. What we're saying is, wait a minute, where's our piece of all this resource? In Alaska, they've already grabbed their piece. We've grabbed nothing. We sell our resources out. Right. We need to...
Alaska people just got $1,200 in their checks, and they get 1% of the geothermal resources, and in a couple of years they get 3%.
And the Inuits
on
get a
top
better
of the
deal.
oil, and the Inuits, the native people. We want this now. It's up in the air. We want y'all to think about this and make sure that we get our piece.
Okay, so we put this. Now, like we said, when you do research, it leads to pebbles, and then you pick those pebbles up, and they lead to more pebbles. This was a pebble that led to another pebble. We went because of the Next Era Energy deal, and because these deals are up for grabs right now. We have a lot of people pissing and moaning about the contracts they made with Ormat. Well, if you had studied the contracts, if people had studied the contracts before they were made, maybe these contracts wouldn't have been made. So right now is the time, because these contracts are being set in stone, and it's a time for us to educate ourselves. So what happened is we went to HECO's website, and we saw on their website that they claim they got the royal charter in 1891 from King David Kalakaua. The problem is King David Kalakaua died in 1891, January 20th. 2 months before he died, he went on a trip. No one knew he was going to die. I don't know if he knew, but nobody knew. He went on a trip. He checked into the Palace Hotel in San Francisco. He left November 25th, 1890. He sailed on the ship to San Francisco, checked into the Palace Hotel, and he died there 2 months later. Well, what happened was we went and looked at this king. Number one, he was all into electricity. He was a visionary. On his birthday in 1886, November 16th, he lit up Iolani Palace. This was the first palace on the planet to be lit up. You know, the Queen of England was jealous. The Iolani Palace got lit up, flipped the switch before the palace in England. That's what a visionary he was. The guys at the bottom, those are the halls. Those are the guys who own HECO. Okay? Now, they didn't believe in electricity. They thought us, oh, that king is a lunatic for thinking about electricity. They were into the gas. They thought the gas lamp was going to be the way.
Gas
so
light.
they asked, in 1884, they asked the king for the royal charter for the gas. In 1890, he gave them the charter for the gas, not the electricity. Every time you ask for a royal charter, it goes into the paper. RJ and I got a subscription to the old papers and went painstakingly through every paper. We can't find them where they were granted the royal patent, royal charter for the electricity. It would have been published in the paper like every other royal charter. You want to start a hardware store, you got to ask the king, you get a royal charter. First you go into the paper with the asking, and then you go into the paper when it's granted. We can't find one for the electricity. They claim they have one, but it's not on the internet. Where is it? So what? Oh, go ahead.
Before he left, he issued 2. One for water and one for gas. That's it.
Okay, so he knew about the electricity. These guys weren't even interested in electricity, but somehow they claim, after he went and died in San Francisco in 1891, they claim, oh, in May, 4 months after he was dead, he gave us the royal charter. And then they claim 3 years after he was dead, they were able to get the franchise from him, from the royal charter. So what we're saying is you might want to look at that royal charter. We've called and we don't have permission to look at it, but maybe you guys can use the power of your office to check it out. See if they really do hold these rights that they're claiming. Because there's many royal charters that can be compared, and with the kind of analysis we have today, we'll see if the king really did sign it. I don't think he'd sign away for the electricity because the King David Kalakaua, the Merry Monarch, was so into native rights. He was so into his Hawaiian people, and he really mistrusted the Holly businessman. Why would he have given them such a great deal in that royal charter? I doubt it. Okay, so we're going on. This is our presentation's over. We dedicated to Stan Myers. Who is Stan Myers? You can watch him on YouTube. He was a visionary. He was making cars that ran on water early on. He
In the
made
70s.
a video before he died because they knew he was going to kill him. He made a video that says they offered me $100 million to go quiet, to shelve this technology, and I told them that I'm a Christian and I'm more interested in the people of this planet than money. And so what happened to Stan? They poisoned him at his favorite breakfast place. He jumped up. He said they poisoned me. He made it out to the parking lot before he died. His brother put the video on YouTube. This is the man who started it. It took them a while to figure out what he was doing. But now
40
they've got it
years.
all together.
40
This is the
years.
man who started it. Thank you very much for listening. Aloha.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.